Hey, everybody, this is Derek McCott, editor-in-chief of FanboyPlanet.com, and thank you for joining this conversation, whether it be live or after the fact. I'm thrilled to have with me today Jaimel Hemphill, who is a co-founder and partner in NPC Comics, or I guess that's redundant, National Press Comics.
There you go.
I got there, you can call it NPC Comics and website at npccomics.com. And I was trying to think about this. Like, we have been friends since 2001, 2002. It's WonderCon, something,
Yeah, it's been a long time, and we're getting old, is what that just told me. I was like, wow. Like, oh my God. I was thinking, like, gosh, and we were adults when we met. Like, it wasn't like it'd be okay if you're like, oh, 2001, when we were in second grade.
No, we were adults. We were full-grown comic book fans. And thanks, man. Thanks for the perspective. But I, of course, we'll want to talk about. About being the owner of or co-owner of an independent press, especially in the context of the last year. But really, I wanted to talk with you tonight about. I'm pleased that it's apparently did even better than WandaVision, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. Marvel Studios taking a really moving stand with this series, and I'm not going to call it a movie. I mean, it's interesting. We're in this weird transition between movie and television with what streaming offers and their capabilities. But you have been tweeting every week, and I've been going like, I can't look at anything Jaimel says because I'm like, I can't watch till the evening. But even when you're just predicting, you predicted everything, I think, to pretty much correctly as far as this is happening.
I was just so happy to see it happen. Predicting it and then actually having it happen. Like, I've been happy to be wrong before, when it comes to like, I'm just a fan. So just saying, I hope this happens or I hope this happens. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's still probably going to be cool. These guys have like 20 amazing movies on their belt, now 2 TV series, all under the watchful eye of Kevin Feige. So, I've been happy to be wrong. Like, the fact that I was right has nothing to do with how much I enjoyed the show. I was just even more ecstatic to be right because I did not expect them to use Isaiah Bradley's character. I didn't think they were going to have the guts to do it. So the fact that they not only used them, but in some ways the story and the things that Isaiah goes through in this series, especially as explained to us in episode 5. I'm sure we'll get there as we go through, but it's worse than the comic in some ways. Like in some ways it's worse. And if you take into the grand scheme of things, when you look and you compare his life to Steve Rogers, it makes it even worse because they lifted the whole going to rescue your fellow soldiers. That's what Truth does in the series, but Steve Rogers doesn't have that.
I want to talk about that. Let's go back to the real folks. I can speak to, like, as a longtime fan and following the Winter Soldier, and I see somebody else got into the studio here. Somebody named Dave. Is that a friend of yours?
Probably Dave Young or I don't know. We'll see.
I can add him to the stream. Hang on just a second.
Yeah. Boom. There's my buddy Dave. Hey Dave, how you doing? There's my buddy. My good friend and brother Dave. Yeah.
Hey, I've never done StreamYard before, so I just followed what they were saying. So I didn't, if I'm interrupting you guys, sorry about that.
Looks like you watch. I've just never had this happen, so I'm just say I'll pull you out of this. But thanks, and I hope you're watching on YouTube or Facebook right now. And if you have any comments, type them up. All right, thanks. So I was going to say I can follow the Winter Soldier. That was about where I stopped. Honestly, reading Captain America was right when Brubaker and Michael Lark were introducing the Winter Soldier there, and I went, that was cool. From that perspective, I read Truth, and there you called out something that I really hadn't thought about. I loved in First Avenger that whole thing. Spoke to Steve Rogers, and I was like, when you called it out, that was actually lifted out of Roberto Morales and Kyle Baker's graphic novel Truth, Red, White, and Black, in which Isaiah Bradley did that, went over, rescued all this. And so there's this weird I don't even know, stochastic, that's not the right word for it. I'm sure there's a really great literary term for it. But meta, I think you've said a meta commentary, is that Isaiah Bradley in Falcon and the Winter Soldier did exactly what in the movie First Avenger Steve Rogers did. And the difference, if people haven't read Truth, Red, White, and Black, is that in that it takes place in World War II as well, not during the Korean War. So that's an interesting change. But then I think about it, talk about being old. I looked back and went, that thing came out in 2003. It's been 18 years since Truth came out. I don't remember if your daughter had been born at that point, but
definitely not. No.
Yeah, no. I'm an adult child now.
I'm saying we're getting to the point where our favorite graphic novels can drink. Like this is terrifying.
My son is younger than that graphic novel. So anyway, but so let's talk about that. Both the move and what it means to have placed this up on screen and not just in the press, or in publication.
Yeah, I think one, it's very poignant because it drives home the whole Two Americas theme. Because you have now a direct correlation. Isaiah Bradley and Steve Rogers did exactly the same thing. Both were put up on a shelf. Both were like, okay, it's only worked for one person, so we're not going to put them in danger. We're not going to utilize them in any way until we figure out how to replicate this. And both of them defy orders. Both of them go rescue people. Steve becomes a hero. Isaiah is locked up for 30 years. So the narrative of Two Americas, it makes it even more poignant than it did in the comics, because in the comics, there's no corollary like that. There's no corollary like that. But now in the cinematic universe, we actually have this, hey, we're not going through the same thing. We're not experiencing America the same way. They both did the same thing, went through the same process, only Isaiah didn't have any control. It was done to him without his knowledge, whereas Steve volunteered. Isaiah then took what was given to him and tried to help people and was locked away for it and experimented upon. And Steve Rogers took what he was given and goes and saves people and is made a hero. So it makes it even more poignant, I think.
And then when you get to what happened, and if people haven't watched the finale of this series, I mean, I was tearing up through it with what Carl Lumley, which speaking again being old.
Yeah.
But I hope that was makeup. Like, I don't want to think of Carl Lumley being this old.
No, I think it was. I think we were denied a flashback scene. Because it's like he doesn't look that old. I don't even think he really has gray. I mean, I saw him in an article or in another video interview, and I was surprised that he had a little bit of gray. Because he was just on Supergirl last year and had no gray whatsoever. He was playing David Harewood's brother. And definitely he's not as wrinkled. He's definitely not that wrinkled. So I was hoping that the reason they aged him up is because we were going to get a flashback to that scene of him and Bucky. That's what I was really hoping. And I'm wondering if COVID maybe prevented us from getting that,
This is my guess that I suspect we would have had one or two more episodes if there had not been a COVID shutdown or lengthy. But flip side, just to talk about them from the artistry, I would so much rather we have 6 episodes where I was not bored. The first episode actually for me was a little slow, but now that you see the whole thing and I feel churlish, like when you see the whole thing, which is different again from the way we're used to watching TV series. It's like, oh yeah, that's why you had to really establish these things. And Sam's kind of waking up in an interesting way that, well, the movie's just never allowed,
Yeah. Well, this was filmed like a 6-hour movie. Yeah. Like when you look at it, like there's really no cliffhangers, or it kind of just gave us 6 acts of a movie. At least that's the way I felt watching it. It was like 6 acts of a movie, and I don't know. I didn't see it as like, oh, this is a TV series. Like WandaVision felt like a TV show, not just because they were filming it that way, but it felt like each episode was self-contained. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then you had a continuation with an ongoing story. But this felt way more like a thing that was broken up. Although I think that maybe a whole generation is relearning how to watch TV. I appreciate the week at a time, the 1 episode a week drop, because it just makes everything more enjoyable. It makes it more fun as being a fan. You're talking about it all week. I think when you binge stuff, you just watch it and forget it. It's on to the next.
Oh, I would agree with that, and I think that's been. I hope that one, we get back to what is normal in terms of being able to go out and do things again, but two, that what we don't go back to is those binging. I mean, I know they're doing both, but I'm with you. I really wish that I had a week to talk about this with friends, like running into them or whatever. I mean, we've got social media and so forth, but it's still. But I do want to say you brought up the two Americas, and that's where this comes through, not just in something that I don't think the comics really did, which was give Isaiah Bradley a place at the Smithsonian exhibit. Like, it comes to light, and and that is the advantage that I think the Marvel Studios, the Marvel Cinematic Universe gets, is they get to kind of not correct mistakes made, because people tell the stories the way they're going to tell the stories, but they get to do things differently and say, like, now a whole new set of creators plays with this fact set and goes, okay, this is what should happen. Let's do it. Isaiah Bradley gets his place. But Sam's speech and that whole concept, even the fifth episode, rolling into that, which Isaiah was the one who said it, like, why would a black man not want to be Captain America?
Yeah.
Considering, I mean, I'm going to get, I'll get political for a moment, considering what happened this week. And then we get that it's, I just hope people don't forget and don't let the message go, and as always, that we do better. But so is there anything else you'd like to say about the series itself before we talk about the comic it came from, or rather?
Yeah, I'm going to go with your political part. I'm willing to get political because like, this is a very political show. No matter how you go through it, right? You're trying to ground it in reality, even with superheroes, and you're dealing with. They made it a point to show like a difference, like it was all the greatest hits of like systemic racism, right? Like Sam can't get a loan, and then they do the cops being okay with Bucky but not with him, and they go with Isaiah with the obvious allusion to the Tuskegee experiments, to just why would a black person do it. And what's funny is I've noticed a lot of people that I respect and love on Facebook, some of them are super dissatisfied, like in terms of Sam's speech, because they're like, oh, it's centrist, because some people are very far left that I know. And they're like, oh, he's not going far enough because the whole system is messed up and he's buying into it. They're more of the Carlys of the world, right? And they're like, why is he buying into it? And I'm like, first off, I just want to point out to people, just from I consider myself pretty far left. I'll just put that out there. But I don't go into watching a movie made by a corporation expecting to see all of my political views espoused.
Disney's not going to approve.
Exactly. I'm not gonna get 100% agreement on everything I see in a Disney movie. And two, not just because it's Disney, but because it's made by consensus. No matter how many people you have in the writer's room, you still got executive producers. And if we're just being very, very honest, there are some people probably in that chain of command as you go higher and higher who were very okay with the last 4 years, whether I was or not. There are some people who are very okay and completely on the other side of the political spectrum for me. And so when you have their input and everyone's input, what are you going to get? You're going to get a centrist view because it's made by consensus.
I'm even going to just underscore what you said there. We have evidence since the guy who actually owns the comic book company Marvel was a Trump advisor. I said the name. I'm sorry. First time I've said it in 6 months. But anyway,
but whether I voted for him or not, it's just the point is that there are guys who disagree with me. Whether I think they're right or wrong, we're not going to even get in that. The fact is, there are people who are completely on the other end of the spectrum for me, and they're in the chain of command for making this movie. So, like it or not, the end product, if it's something that they vehemently disagree with, it's not going to get shown. It's not. So stop going to these things and expecting, if you're either 100% on one side or 100% right or 100% left, you're not going to see that in mainstream media because it's made by consensus. So you're going to get a centrist view, whether or not you agree with Sam's. Like, I think most of the problems I've seen with Sam's speech, or people who say they have a problem with it, they're saying, oh, it's a very centrist view. We don't believe that the system is right. It's not worth fighting for. you know, on some level, I actually disagree with that, because if you know, my parents and my grandparents and great grandparents were in this country, and if I'm descended from enslaved people, and they helped build the economic power, which is basis of everything we have in America, well, then I have some sort of ownership of America, and I do feel like it's worth fighting for. And that's just my personal view, and that's what Sam's view is. If you disagree with that, that's a-okay, but don't expect to see your views, if you tend to lean farther left than the center, don't expect to see your views. Like, you have to take it with a grain of salt, you know, and go into, like, I don't go into these movies expecting to see all my views. Especially, I appreciate it within the construct that it's being made, and within the construct that it's being made, that Sam is introducing himself, and he realizes that he has a chance to introduce himself to the world as Captain America. He's got all the cameras on him. He's looking at the people in power, and it's his chance to assert himself as Captain America and demand that these people uphold themselves. Especially, notice he's not speaking to anyone else. He's speaking to the American representative. And he's saying, you have to hold up to the values that I'm sitting here wearing. I'm the guy now who's supposed to embody these values. And he's telling him, basically, here's what America stands for. Are you actually going to be that guy? Are you going to represent America? Like, that's what Captain America does, right? Even Steve Rogers in the comic is known for saying, I'm loyal to nothing but the dream, right? Like, that's a Captain America quote. I'm only loyal to the values of America. I'm not loyal to the government. I'm not loyal to any president. I'm not loyal to anybody. I'm loyal to the values of America. That's why I'm Captain America. I'm not Captain Congress. I'm not Captain President. Right. Like, you know, so, and Sam is carrying that forward. So within the structure of the show, it makes perfect sense, and the journey of the character. You know, I think we tend to put too much of our own expectations and values on the character and expect too much of it rather than just watching it in this construct. And if you don't like that, well, then stop going to mainstream comics expecting them to, like, there's a lot of independents right here. There's other people for you to buy.
My wife had not read, you know, I go back to, it's not Englehart, the Mark Gruenwald run, introducing John Walker and introducing Battlestar. And, you know, and I was thinking about this, of course, because people have been complaining about how political. Nobody watching me right now, but people have been complaining about how political comics have gotten, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, you know, the statement Gruenwald was making in the 80s with that, and I guess early 90s, I totally got. You know, I mean, but I was thinking about this. So let's go back to Truth, Red, White, and Black. Roberto Morales and Kyle Baker, and, you know, they were trying to shake things up back then, Marvel. I interviewed him because after Truth, he got onto DC's Plastic Man, and he said, you know, that what they told him was, we don't care about the comic shops. This series is for the people that don't read Captain America. We're trying for mass media. We're trying to make CNN and the New York Times. They meant to make an impact. And yet I looked on the Marvel Unlimited app to reread it this afternoon, because we were just talking, this is out of print. Yeah. Why the heck this incredibly influential, important graphic novel is out of print? I have no idea. If you can find it, if you're watching this right now and you can find it on Comixology or Kindle,
highly recommend it.
Absolutely, read this, because it is beautiful. It is an amazing piece, and it plays a little fast and loose. And yet, you know, I remember reading it thinking, oh yeah, I don't know why people are upset. This is completely plausible. But on the Marvel Unlimited app, they say it's in the tradition of origin, and with the Wolverine thing, I was like, what? In what way is it in the tradition of origin, except that they got a headline out of it? But I was thinking that for Marvel, and I think you're a little deeper than I am, especially in recent years, that, like, for the main big two, like, you had the Dark Knight and Watchmen, and then Marvel did some stuff too, and you had comics that kind of commented on comics.
Right.
And superhero comics that commented about superhero comics. And those were the 80s, and then it changed. Everything got fascistic and dark and blah, blah, blah. And then by 2003, here comes this series. And I feel like it's the first of the mainstream big two to actually truly drop the metaphor and say, if there were a Captain America in 1942, this is what would have happened. do not think the blonde, blue-eyed guy would have been the first one, or he's just the one that made it, that made sure it was safe for him.
Yeah.
And I know that upset people. So too bad.
I'm honestly like, I am not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I am of the firm belief that Marvel and maybe the new EIC has cold feet over this, because when you read the comic, and maybe this is why it's out of print, and even the writer and artist have backed this up afterwards. The intention is that, Isaiah Bradley's group was an attempt to recreate the serum that Steve Rogers had. That's how it's played in the show. That's how it's played,
Kyle said that in the interview. Kyle told
exactly
me that way back
but
when.
If you read it,
that's not the way
if you read it, it's pretty obvious that this is before Steve Rogers. So I think what it is
thank you for telling me I'm not crazy, because I never meant it that way.
Everyone has said it. Everyone has said it one way after the fact. They have said, "Oh no, this was an attempt to recreate Steve Rogers," and they did it, and it was still bad, but it was an attempt to recreate. Instead, when you read the comic, it's pretty obvious to me that it was meant to be. No, they didn't know how it was going to work, and they experimented, and then once they got it perfected, they hid Isaiah Bradley, because they were like, no, we cannot have the first one being this black guy. We can't do that. So they had it. And Brian, you're absolutely right. They were presenting it in the show that they were trying to recreate the serum, and they did it to Isaiah. You are absolutely right. But if you read the original comic, The Truth, Red, White, and Black, it doesn't come off that way. It comes off that this is prior to Steve getting the serum.
It's an interesting meta commentary, because Isaiah Bradley even once again echoes Steve Rogers' later career, because he says he wanted to be a comic book artist.
Yes.
And he's reading Captain America comics, and then the implication is the comics came out before they perfected the formula. So I think that's the way they're trying to play it both ways.
Yeah.
Like, say, how could the comic book have said Steve Rogers if Steve Rogers weren't already Captain America?
Yeah.
But
I think what happened is they got cold feet, because it's all the implications. It's fine to say that, the government was bad. Everybody's willing to accept that the government is evil. Everybody's willing to accept that, right? We're all willing to accept evil secret government experience.
I feel like both sides of the aisle are perfectly willing.
Yeah,
to say
they're
that.
perfectly fine with that. What they're not willing to accept, though, is that Dr. Erskine would allow that to happen. Right? Yeah. He's a good guy. He picked Steve Rogers because he knew that we had to be good people, and he's an inherently good man. And you don't want to think that he would allow that to happen. But he was a German scientist. and there are good people who do horribly, horribly racist things all the time. Like when, there were a lot of people who were sweet, like Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence and then went home and abused Sally Hemings.
Yeah.
It doesn't separate it. But I think what happened is the pushback came from, wait, so if they did this before Steve, that's racist. And that means Dr. Erskine's racist. And that means Steve's part of a racist thing. And just being associated with racism makes everybody automatically bad, and I think that's where the push. So now you have this twisting. No, it was afterwards. It was after then. Well, Dr. Erskine's already dead. Steve doesn't know. And it kind of washes everybody's hands, because you can pretend it's some other people who did this.
Oh, I believe that Steve wouldn't know. There's even a line in there about you were on ice. Suspended animation buys you a pretty good excuse.
Exactly.
But I think there's also an interesting note, and I never really interpreted that reading the original Kirby and Simon stories, or Simon and Kirby. Sorry, I said it out of order. Anybody, I apologize. Simon and Kirby. The one of the reasons the Nazi spy killed Dr. Erskine was because they thought he was Jewish. And then that's the revelation. No, of course he was a Nazi scientist. And it is interesting, because I think maybe in 2003, and it's weird and exciting at the same time, that maybe we finally, evolved enough to confront this about our history is in 2003. I think there were a lot of people very uncomfortable with this idea.
Yes.
There's a show on Amazon, Hunters, that talks heavily about Operation Paperclip. And I know people were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, well, I know because I watched X-Files and you didn't watch X-Files. So you have no idea. What used to be conspiracy theories, you said you're no conspiracy theorist, but
Yeah.
I'm not really, but I follow them. And I say, it's like what used to be conspiracy theory turned out to actually be true. We have our entire space program is based on we forgave a lot of Nazi war crimes in order to get the Russians to the moon. And and so the same thing is very logical. And in 2021, and so this is my heartfelt plea out to Marvel, like they're watching, but to say, bring this thing into print so it can be on people's bookshelves and back in libraries, and because we're gonna be back in libraries. I don't want to say it's completely out of print. Like I said, it is available digitally if you have Marvel Unlimited. I read it this afternoon because if I have the original comics, they're boxed up somewhere in an undisclosed storage pod right now. I don't know where, But so it's available that way. But I still think there's something powerful about being able to look at, especially Kyle Baker's art, and to see it all laid out the way he's doing it and the pacing. It was a graphic novel, unfortunately released as 7 individual issues. Which is interesting. The first 2 covers still say 1 and 2 out of 6.
Yeah.
They added a 7th issue.
Yeah. And the 7th is the kicker, because that's where Steve finds out, and you realize he's being told this story, and he seeks Isaiah out. And I think that's a great capper to the story. I had been pushing like as much as what little voice I had, but I was like, gosh, Captain America 4 should be the truth. Like I've been saying that since Captain America 3 came on. I was like, there needs to be a solo Cap movie, because I felt like his movies were Avengers 0.5 movies. Like especially Civil War and Winter Soldier were like Avengers 0.5. And I felt like we need another movie where it's just Cap. And I was like, The Truth would be a great movie for Cap, of him slowly figuring that out. And maybe they did the one correction, I thought, whereas in the comic, Isaiah is he's incapable of being a hero now, even though he's just as young as Cap. It would have been great to see Isaiah with his full faculties and Cap needing some help and finding out, no, there's another Captain America. There's 2 of you. You can get some help.
Well, so this is interesting. Marvel got as bad as every other Marvel Studios got as bad as every website. I eat my own when I say that, and they could not wait. They spoiled yesterday that yes, the creator of the show, Falcon the Winter Soldier, had been asked to write Captain America 4. Now, Kevin Feige is saying this is not Chris Evans' return to Marvel, so I'd be happy either way. And so I'd like to ask you here. It's a great idea, and I hope they listen. I'd love to see Chris Evans and Carl Lumbly have a scene, a little toe to toe. At least give me at least at this point, give me a flashback. You don't even have to make Chris work out.
Yeah. I mean, just have old Cap meet him. You know, if Steve never knew, then it'd be great to see old Cap find out and go thank him. That would be kind of cool. Yeah.
I was still going to ask you about the comics, because the thing that I admit I missed. I was happy that he took over. I really felt like when Bucky became Captain America in the comics, it was like, okay, this is where America is. That was what, 2007 or 2008. We want to see ourselves like we're doing the right thing, but he's carrying a gun. This is, it was really the right Captain America. Sadly, for that time.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Sam having become Captain America. So, in comics, what's the impact there? Because am I right? He isn't Captain America anymore?
I don't think he is Captain America anymore. I've been really reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' Captain America. We mentioned that before we started recording. I've been reading that too. No, that's definitely Steve. And the big thing was, I think they spent too much on Falcon, that he was the Black Captain America. And I think that was kind of like the downfall of his thing. It was like he did some of the stuff, like for 2 issues, it was wish fulfillment. It was like if a black guy was Captain America, okay, average black guy, what would you do if you were Captain America? Oh, he went right down to the border and smashed up all the people who weren't allowing immigrants to come in, right? Like he went down, like there was some bad guys who were keeping immigrants from coming in. He went right down and said, no, America's, the home of the immigrant. Like you're not going to stop immigrants from come living their dream. And that was cool. And then he started working with like street level people. I'm like, I'm going to solve social issues. And it's like, that's great, but like you're still Captain America. So my beef was Sam never got any of the globe-trotting adventures that Steve did, and it spent too much with like, you're the black dude, do the black stuff, do the stuff that black people really need, and you're forgetting that he's Captain America and he should still have duties that represent I don't know, but he's not taking out spies anymore. He's just dealing with like he's not stopping Hydra anymore. He's just like literally it's too heavy. It's too. It overcompensated, and I think that was kind of a problem.
Well, the next move that Marvel is doing for this to celebrate Cap's 80th anniversary.
Yeah.
He's really old. The character's 80th anniversary is the United States of Captain America, where they will introduce local ones. That there are people that are taking the mantle, which I would rather see. Like I'm with you. Like give me a big symbol, and then people are inspired. I think that's been the flaw of superheroes. If we can get into Joseph Campbell for a little bit, the right cultural hero actually gives everybody the tools and the strength to become what they are. And it's something that America dances around. I don't know that we've got it right. So I'm really thrilled for this. Even with U.S. Agent, I'm not a fan of the character, which is by design.
Sweetest costume. All right, U.S. Agent has got to be one of my favorite costumes in comics or in the movie, because it was a perfect recreation. Just so you know, like if anybody's read some of my comics, like I have a comic called Blackjacks about a government super team. The first character I ever created was the leader of that team named Sideswipe. Blatant rip off of U.S. Agent's costume. It's red, white, and black.
I'm gonna be honest, it's probably been if we've been friends for 19 or 20 years, it's probably been 19 or 20 years since I read that. But
but like first character I ever made, was red, white, and black with the pin over vest, chest piece. I didn't do red, white, and black stripes or anything, but it's totally a rip off of U.S. Agent. It's totally like I loved that. I love that design. I love that design. And I just want to point out, you made a great point about how real heroes give people the tools they need. Just to take it back to what we're talking about, notice that in a Winter Soldier, or the finale here, Sam spent a lot of time enabling people to save themselves, like specifically in the helicopter. He called on the woman to help him and gave her agency to rescue herself. He tried to talk Carly out of it. Like, so just showing how real heroes uplift others. Sam did a lot of that, by inspiring everybody else to act.
Well, and I think what gets overlooked because of it being, both of them in the title is, I think he saved Bucky. Yes. And that's the thing. It's like you see a Bucky who in every other film and every other appearance has been like, well, Wakanda saved him too. The Dora Milaje.
Right.
I apologize that I can't remember exactly which one was established as
helping him.
But I'm old. I can't remember things as well as I used to. But that she did, and you see him having let go of the programming. But he and Steve had also had moments where it's like he couldn't sleep comfortably in any like a comfortable thing.
Sam got him to sleep on the couch. Yeah,
he's on Sam's couch. He's actually you see an actual smile that's sincere and not pained. This is not and the Winter Soldier. This is the Falcon with the Winter Soldier. And it's okay because I know what they were doing was the Falcon and the Snowman. They were trying to make some title.
It sounded really cool. It sounded.
And
cool.
They changed the title at the end to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And I don't know what this means for the next phase. But I mean, I'm down for it. I think you've thrown out a couple of ideas that I'd love to see, whether it be on Disney Plus, because again, I'm not sure when I'm going back into the theater. I'll go in. Let's for a minute go there. What comes next? Putting all the real world stuff aside, that you get Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Contessa Valentina from the Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Stuff that Steranko did way back when, and she was supposed to show up in Black Widow.
That's what I read. Yeah.
So if COVID hadn't hit, we would have seen Black Widow first before we ever saw because it was November.
You're right.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to hit in November, so everybody would have seen Black Widow, and then by the time the last two episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was like, oh, we just saw her in the theater. We know something else. And
there was a rumor that the new Black Widow and maybe even Steve Rogers had cameos in the Falcon and Winter Soldier that were cut. Like I just read that today. Take it with a huge grain of salt, but it may be that something's going on in the Black Widow movie that drastically altered who we got to see.
Well, I think because I think Phase 4. I think Phase 4 is setting up. We've got Young Avengers versus Dark Avengers, and we're going to see them clash. So that would be and we've got Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I'm now saying publicly, thanks to Entertainment Weekly, I throw myself on my sword. I have pronounced Shang-Chi wrong my entire life, according to Entertainment Weekly.
I said it wrong this morning. If that's the case, I said it wrong.
But I mean, again, it's one of those things about comics is like, I think thank heavens for the internet, thank heavens for conventions where we met, where you get to actually talk with people and you get to interact and find these things out. But I mean, it's just kind of. So I'm going to do my best, and the Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I'm so excited for. But that too is out of order from what we were originally told. We would see the Eternals first, or I think I think it's just Eternals, and who knows where any of that's going to go. But I think you're right. Yelena from Black Widow will show up. We've got U.S. Agent. We know we're getting not Stature. We're getting the new Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series, and so they're setting up a lot of exciting new things. But I'm going to talk about more exciting new things, which is Just You, NPC Comics, so National Press Comics. Go to this site, people. Some great independent books. I mean, Summer Superhero. It's if you're a collective, right? It's 3 equal founders, and
there's 3 founders. We started with 6, but obviously it's been almost like 20 years since we founded the company now. But there's 3 partners. Along with a couple of associated creators, and we try to make the best stuff we can.
And then where do people get? So we talked about hard copies like for Truth. So where do people get hard copies of National Press?
Any store. We're not currently in Diamond distributors right now, but then who is? It seems like. But
different kind of politics. All right.
Yeah, different one. But we are looking at a couple of new distributors right now. Any store can order us flat out, but we're going to make it a lot easier by getting new distributors. I got to be honest, we're in flux right now, just like everybody else, except for the big 3 and maybe the second tier. So we're just like everybody else trying to figure out who we should be with right now. Hopefully maybe we'll stick with Diamond, but we've got a couple of people that we're just opening up conversations with. But any store can order us, or you can order us online, and we'll be happy to ship directly to you. And we're on Comixology, so
you are on Comixology. That's why I wanted to make sure people knew that. And so what are the books you've got? What that right now that you're working on?
Right now, I have a mini-series that's going on right now. Issue 2 just released last month. Issue 3 should be out in the next couple of weeks. It's called Sunlar. It's a super old idea. Once again, old idea I had back in the 20th century, but it's a buddy comedy. It's about a drunken fry cook who gets powers like Green Lantern, basically. And alien crashes, needs to give away their power, and instead of finding a spunky test pilot, he finds a fry cook in an alley, and now that guy has the power to change reality. And the alien doesn't die after all and sticks around as a ghost that only the fry cook can see and hear. And so now wackiness ensues.
It's like Green Lantern meets the Peacemaker, or
or Quantum Leap. I always said that. Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I would also go with Kid Eternity.
Quantum Leap, where one guy's a hologram and that no one else can see or hear. Or also, I tell people Lethal Weapon. Only Mel Gibson is a drunken fry cook, and Danny Glover is an alien who's had enough of his crap. That is,
which might explain Lethal Weapon 5 when that comes out. So anyway,
pretty much, I think they might have stolen my story. Is what I'm saying.
I say, call your agent right now. Anyway,
yeah, so that's coming out now. We'll try to. We actually relaunched Blackjacks. I'm not writing it, but there is a miniseries of Blackjacks that's coming out this year, written by Nace Mestis and drawn by John Lee. And then later this year, I'll be doing a story called Cyber Wings, which is about a woman who has her body invaded by a nanotechnological life form. And the series is basically about her arguing for control of her body against this new life form that wants to take it over. So
this sounds pretty interesting. So we look forward to in the next year. Follow them on follow Twitter at NPC Comics. Go to npccomics.com and there are links to everything else. And of course, I'm gonna I gotta throw my own little banner up. Of course, you can follow us. I know I've got this. There we go. I still, I use it. You follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fanboy Planet Jaimel. It has been too long, and I hope we get to see you face to face in the same room. I don't know if I'm going to see anybody again before 2021 is over, but at least in 2022. But because we don't know when the conventions are, and I moved to LA, so we're not really in the same counties.
Yeah. I don't know when I'm going back. There's one that we're thinking about. We've been pushing our balance forward with them while they figure it out. I'm not so certain about the fall. We'll see how everybody does with their vaccines and everything. But we'll figure it out. But sooner or later we're going to return to conventions. So
all right. Well, great. Okay, so once again, everybody, thanks so much, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's it. I'm out. Ready? And here we go.